Do you ever feel like stress and anxiety are holding you back from achieving more with your motorcycle? Well, stay tuned because today I'm going to be sharing with you my 3 simple tricks that have helped me overcome anxiety and ride further. Hey Sprocketeers, welcome back to the channel. My name is Safi Sprocket and today we're going to be talking about something that's a little bit different. Now, it's a topic that more and more of you have been approaching me about lately, particularly at the London Bike Show, and it's actually a really common conversational topic. And it's usually gone, well, a little bit like this. How do you do it? How are you doing it? How are you going out and doing all of this dumb, stupid, terrifying stuff and have the courage to do it and not get scared? And my answer is always usually, well, the same thing. I do get scared. I am always scared and I am always terrified by the things that I am doing. And that's about 99% of the time. The 1% that I'm not scared, it's most likely just because my brain hasn't kicked in gear yet and I haven't even processed that I should be scared. But absolutely everything I do, I am perpetually terrified all the time. And then usually at the show, I'd stand there a little bit like a lemon, wondering how I can inspire and motivate people to push past their own fear, when ultimately I didn't really understand why I was able to do it either. Now, I've previously made a video about overcoming fear regarding solo motorcycle touring, which you can find on my channel. However, this video is going to be slightly different because rather than focusing on the practical steps for traveling, it's more about the mindset that you have and overcoming the fear that's holding you back. So what exactly is fear? Now, at some point in our lives, we've all experienced fear and anxiety. There's this physical sensation when your heart is pounding against your chest. There's that cold sweat that rushes down your scalp, and that horrible feeling when your mind is running at 200 miles per hour, and the mental gymnastics of when your thoughts are running too fast, and yet physically you're paralyzed from pushing on. Now imagine that experience of fear running concurrently alongside a thought pattern that just wants you to succeed and accomplish more. Suddenly you're caught at a crossroad of an internal conflict where only one side's gonna win. But how do you let your courageous side take control? So tactic number 1, the power of language. Now you've probably heard the term positive self-talk, and if you're anything like me, your immediate reaction is going to be an eye roll. And I'm going to be honest with you, when people start to talk about stuff like the power of language, I can't help but tune it out. And I've always considered myself just to be too pragmatic for such an idea. However, what I really am is a big fat hypocrite, and an ignorant one at that. You see, self-talk is basically just an internal dialogue that we have in our heads all day long. These thoughts can be positive or they can be negative. The more that you start to tell yourself positive things and encouraging phrases over and over again, even if you don't truly believe what you're saying, it is an incredibly effective tool. It instantly reduces your stress levels, it helps improve your self-esteem, and if you're in any kind of physical pain, it also reduces that. Now, I was completely ignorant to the fact that I talk to myself whenever I'm starting to struggle with a task. However, because I've spent hours upon hours editing my own videos, I've really started to get to know myself and my crazy habits. What I've come to realize is that I do actually indulge in a lot of positive self-talk. And I mean a lot. So let's take a look.
Oh my god, I'm actually terrified. Okay. It's okay. It's okay, we got this. Okay. It's okay. Oh my god. Okay. Oh my god, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Oh my god. Oh. We're good. We're good. We're good, Saffron. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
And I'm a bit cold and wet, so I'm just drying off. And I feel like calling it quits if I'm honest, but I came here to do one thing, and that was drive to an obscure milkshake vending machine near Swansea, buy a milkshake, and then visit a donkey. And I'm gonna do it. I don't care how long it takes me, or how wet I get, or how horrible it is, or how rubbish I am.
Definitely 100% deserve a hot cup of coffee and some dry top got to be.
So the absolute worst thing has happened in the world. I've gone to buy a coffee and the lid wasn't on properly. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm really close to crying because I have burnt my hand. Ugh. It's fine, I'm a big girl. I am a very, very big girl. I don't need feelings. Guys, we did it! We've made it to the Devil's Staircase.
Now, up until I started making YouTube videos, I believed that positive self-talk wasn't effective. And it's not that it wasn't effective, it's that I never really recognized that I did it. And so I guess I was somewhat ignorant of the positive effect that it was having on my confidence. But whenever I've been faced with an issue or a challenge on the road, I'm not a professional and I'm not experienced, and I get scared a lot. And I also get really worried. And you can always tell when I'm starting to feel a little bit scared because I'll just default back to that positive self-talk, telling myself that I can do this. And in all the different scary situations, I just continue to repeat positive phrases to get through the moment. And don't get me wrong, at the moment, I do not believe a single thing that is coming out of my mouth. I just don't believe it. I don't know why I tell myself, but what I do know is that for some reason, telling myself that I can do it and that it's easy and that it's just a bike or it's just a hill, it somehow just works out. And sure, as you ride your bike up a hill, chanting, "I'm fine," over and over and over, you might look like a lunatic. But you know what? Fuck it, because it's gonna get you where you wanna be. So if you look a little bit mad and you're getting where you wanna be, it's a great tactic. Now this leads me on to tactic number 2, which is Iliism. Now this is also known as distanced self-talk. Now that you have a list of positive phrases that you can yell at yourself while you're out on your bike, we just want to discuss a little bit about distance talking. Now this was something I actually started to research after watching a lot of my footage back. You see, whenever I was riding along on my bike and vlogging my travels, if I was approaching a difficult task or even undergoing something that made me feel emotional, I noticed that my speech patterns would start to vary. Now, what I meant by this is that my brain would automatically switch back to a third-person speech pattern, and I'd talk to myself as if I was talking to someone else. Now, this was something I'd never even noticed that I did before, let alone even researched. So it turns out that this is a fairly known emotional regulation tactic. Now, when a person's feeling stressed or nervous, it could be that you're taking your first bike test, it could be that you're taking your first solo ride, but it's really easy to focus on what's happening inside our heads. And that means focusing on all of the negative emotions and projecting them onto the outside world. And in effect, we lose the ability to take in the bigger picture of what's going on. How about when you start to refer to yourself from a third-person perspective, it allows you to think about your experience from a distance perspective. It's the mental ability to take a step back. I guarantee that you'll get a little bit of relief when faced with any challenge out on the bike. So what this looks like in practice is, let's take our positive phrase, which is, I can do this, I can ride up this hill. And then we switch it to a third-person perspective, which is, you can do this, you can ride up this hill. And you just keep chanting those phrases over and over again. And for some reason, it just feels a little bit more effective. And suddenly your emotions feel a little bit smaller. And although you're still feeling scared, you feel a lot more empowered to overcome the things that are scaring you. And tactic number 3, which is just practice. The next time you're faced with any kind of biking challenge, it's easy to forget to encourage yourself, especially if you're about to potentially roll off a hill or slide in some mud. But that's because good habits take time to build. You don't want to wait until the moment you need to use the skills to start using them. You want to start practicing straight away, and you want to start in circumstances where you don't need encouraging. For example, start with a route that you know, like maybe riding to a nearby cafe or even a road that you're familiar with. Except this time, start talking to yourself and start building those habits early on. If it's the case that you do have a bigger goal that you want to achieve, like maybe it's solo camping, then start small, like camping nearby, or even just riding to a nearby campsite, and then try again, but further and further away each time. And then before you know it, you'll be cruising through the wilderness, and the fear that you had will just be a distant memory of your youth. But in order to get to that point, you need to practice doing it. It needs to become second nature. And there we have it. That's basically my top 3 tips. And I just want to kind of say this one last thing before I clock off, and that is, one day, you're going to be an old, wrinkly weirdo in their 90s looking back at who you are now, and you're going to look at yourself with the same kind of fondness that that you look at younger you when you're a child. You wouldn't make fun of 6-year-old you for learning how to tie your shoelaces, and I can guarantee that 90-year-old you isn't going to make fun of where you are now either. So why are you doing it to yourself currently? And there we have it, folks. Yell at yourself in third person repeatedly until everyone thinks you're insane, and you too will be an accomplished lunatic like me. In the meantime, don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you have any other questions you'd like me to answer, drop it in the comments below. In the meantime, ride safe, stay crazy. My name's Safi Sprocket, and I'll see you next week.